One day, you'll wake up and realise you don't think about them anymore. You won't check to see if they've changed. You won't wonder if they miss you. You won't replay the conversations or imagine the closure you never got. You'll just be okay. And it'll feel strange at first, that kind of peace. Because peace wasn't always this quiet. There was a time when your mind wouldn't stop. When every notification made your heart jump. When you needed answers, apologies, explanations, anything to make sense of what happened. But somewhere along the way, you stopped needing those things. Not because you got them, but because you outgrew the version of yourself that was waiting for them. That shift? That's where real freedom lives. And the crazy part is, it didn't happen all at once. It happened in the moments you chose silence over reaction. In the nights, you didn't send that message. In the mornings, you woke up and decided that your peace mattered more than being right. So if you're still in the middle of it, if you're still holding on, still waiting, still hoping, let's go back to where the silence began. Because that's where everything changes. You know what's interesting? Most of us spend more time thinking about the people who hurt us than the people who love us. We replay the argument. We rehearse what we should have said. We imagine the moment they finally understand, finally apologise, finally see us the way we wanted to be seen. And while we're doing all of that, we're giving away pieces of ourselves we can't get back. Time. Energy. Peace. We hand it over like it's unlimited, like we'll always have more to give. But here's the thing, you won't. One day you'll look up and realise you spent years trying to convince someone of your worth, and the only person who never got convinced was you. That's the part nobody talks about. We think the goal is to make them see it, to make them regret it, to make them feel what we felt. But the real goal, the one that actually changes your life, is to stop needing them to see anything at all. I'm not saying this to sound cold or detached. I'm saying it because I've watched people lose themselves in the need to be understood. I've seen brilliant, kind, strong people shrink down into smaller and smaller versions of themselves, just hoping that one more explanation, one more conversation, one more chance will finally make things click. And it never does. Because the issue was never your ability to explain yourself. The issue was their inability to hear you. And no amount of words can fix that. You can't talk someone into valuing you. You can't explain your way into respect. And you definitely can't convince someone to care if they've already decided not to. That's a hard truth. But it's also freeing. See, we grow up believing that communication solves everything. And in healthy situations, it does. But what about situations that are not healthy? What about the people who twist your words, dismiss your feelings, or weaponize your vulnerability? In those cases, more communication isn't the answer. Silence is. Not the silent treatment. That's manipulation. I'm talking about the kind of silence that comes from self-respect. The kind that says, I don't need to defend myself to someone who's already made me the villain. I don't need to keep showing up for people who don't see me. And I definitely don't need closure from someone who was never honest to begin with. That kind of silence? That's power. But it takes time to get there. Most of us have to go through the phase where we overshare, over-explain, over-apologise. We think if we just say the right thing in the right way, everything will shift. We think people are just confused, that they just don't understand yet. So we keep trying. We keep showing up. We keep pouring into empty cups, hoping that one day they'll fill up and pour back into us. And when that doesn't happen, we blame ourselves. We think, maybe I didn't say it right. Maybe I wasn't clear enough. Maybe I'm asking for too much. But you weren't asking for too much. You were asking the wrong person. And that's the difference. There's something deeply painful about realising that your effort doesn't matter to everyone. That your love doesn't change everyone. That your presence doesn't heal everyone. We want to believe that if we just care enough, try enough, give enough, things will work out. But life doesn't work that way. Some people will take everything you offer and still make you feel like it wasn't enough. Some people will drain you and then blame you for being tired. And some people will walk away the moment you stop carrying the entire relationship on your back. And when that happens, The instinct is to chase, to fix it, to prove that you're still worth it. But what if, instead of chasing, you just stood still? What if you let them walk? What if you trusted that anyone who's meant to stay won't make you beg for it? That's where everything started to change. Let's start with something you probably already know, but haven't fully admitted to yourself yet. You're tired. Not just physically tired, emotionally tired. Tired of defending yourself. Tired of explaining your intentions. Tired of proving your worth to people who've already decided you're not enough. And the worst part, most of that exhaustion comes from responding. You react to the comment someone made. You react to the opinion they posted. You react to the tone they used, the message they didn't send, the respect they didn't show. And every time you react, you hand over a piece of your power. You might think you're standing up for yourself, but really, you're just bleeding energy into situations that don't deserve it. Here's what most people don't understand. Reaction is a trap. It feels like control, but it's the opposite. When you react, you're not in control. You're being controlled by their words, by their behaviour, by their need to get under your skin. And the crazy part is, they don't even have to be in the room. They could be miles away, living their life, while you're sitting there crafting the perfect comeback, replaying the conversation, imagining what you should have said. They've moved on, but you haven't, because you're still reacting. You're still letting them dictate your emotional state. And that's exactly where they want you. Think social media for a second. Someone posts something ignorant, insensitive, or just plain wrong. And what happens? The comments explode. People who've never met are suddenly in full-blown arguments, writing paragraphs to strangers who don't care, defending positions to people who aren't listening. And for what? To be right? To feel heard? To prove a point? None of that happens. What happens is you waste an hour of your life, your blood pressure goes up, and the person who posted it, they're probably not even reading the replies. You gave them your time, your energy, your peace, and they didn't even notice. That's the trap. You think you're engaging, but you're just exhausting yourself. And it's not just online. It happens at work. Someone undermines you in a meeting. Your instinct is to fight, to correct the record, to make sure everyone knows the truth. So you do. You explain, you defend, you justify, and maybe you win that moment. Maybe people nod and agree, but inside you feel hollow, because deep down you know you shouldn't have had to do that. You know that people who truly see you don't need convincing, and people who don't see you won't be convinced no matter what you say. So why are you still trying? Why are you still letting other people's opinions pull you out of your centre? Here's the part that's hard to accept. Silence doesn't mean you're weak. It means you finally figured out what's worth your energy and what's not. It means you stop playing games you were never meant to win. Because, let's be honest, most of the time, the people who provoke you aren't looking for understanding. They're looking for a reaction. They want to see you rattled. They want to know they still have access to your emotions. And the moment you give them that, they've won. Not because they were right, but because they got what they came for. Your attention, your anger, your time. The moment you choose silence, you take it all back. You redirect your energy towards something that actually matters. Yourself. But let's not pretend silence is easy. It's not. Every part of you will want to respond. You'll feel it rising in your chest. The urge to defend, to explain, to set the record straight. Your mind will race. You'll think of the perfect thing to say, the perfect way to shut it down, and your fingers will hover over the keyboard, or your mouth will open and you'll be right there, on the edge of letting it all out. And in that moment, you have a choice, react or restrain. Most people react, because restraint feels like swallowing glass. It feels like losing, like letting them get away with it. But what if I told you that restraint isn't about them at all? It's about you. It's about deciding that your peace is worth more than their perception. Let me paint a picture for you. You're at work. You've been putting in long hours on a project, staying late, going above and beyond. Then, in a meeting, someone else takes credit for your idea. Not directly, but enough people in the room think it was theirs. You feel it immediately. The heat in your face, the tightness in your throat. Your brain starts drafting the response. You want to interrupt. You want to say, actually, that was my idea. You want everyone to know. And here's the thing, you'd be justified, you'd be right. But the question isn't whether you're right. The question is, what does speaking up at that moment cost you? Maybe nothing. Maybe you say it, people nod, and it's fine. But maybe, just maybe, it makes you look defensive. Maybe it starts a tension that follows you for weeks. Maybe the person who took credit gets embarrassed and now they're working against you behind the scenes. Or maybe, worst of all, you speak up and no one cares. You used your voice and it didn't matter. Now you're sitting there exposed, feeling smaller than you did before. Here's what restraint looks like at that moment. You don't interrupt. You let them talk. You take a breath. You wait, and after the meeting, you pull the right person aside, the one who actually matters, and you calmly clarify your role. No drama, no audience. Just facts. You protect your work without needing to perform. That's restraint. That's power. Because you didn't give them the reaction they might have been hoping for. You didn't make it emotional. You made it strategic. And here's the beautiful part, when you operate like that, people notice. Not always right away, but over time, they see who stays calm under pressure. They see who doesn't need to fight for every scrap of recognition. They see who's solid. And that person, that's the one they trust. That's the one they respect, not the loudest voice in the room. The steadiest one. But getting to that place takes practice. Because your first instinct will always be to react. That's how we're wired. When something threatens us, our reputation, our pride, our sense of fairness, our brain treats it like danger. And danger demands a response. Fight or flight, defend or retreat. The problem is, most of the threats we face aren't physical. They're emotional. And emotional threats don't need the same response. They need something more refined, more intentional. They need restraint. And restraint is a muscle. The first time you try it, it's going to feel weak. You're going to second guess yourself. You're going to wonder if you should have said something. But the more you practice it, the stronger it becomes. And eventually, staying silent stops feeling like a sacrifice. It starts feeling like a choice. And that's when everything shifts. The first time you choose silence over reaction, something changes. You might not notice it right away. But it's there. It's the moment you realise that not every attack requires a defence. That not every misunderstanding needs to be corrected. Not everyone who misreads you deserves an explanation. And in that moment, even if it's small, even if no one else sees it, you take your power back. Not with words. With stillness. With the quiet decision that your energy is too valuable to waste on battles that don't build you. I'm not talking about becoming emotionless. I'm not talking about pretending nothing bothers you. That's not silence. That's suppression. And suppression will destroy you from within. What I'm talking about is conscious restraint. It's feeling the anger, the frustration, the hurt, and choosing not to weaponize it. It's acknowledging that yes, you could say something. Yes, you could fire back. Yes, you could make them feel what they made you feel. But you don't. Not because you can't. Because you won't. And that distinction, that's everything. There's a kind of clarity that comes with that first moment of restraint. It's like watching yourself from the outside and realizing that the person you're about to become, the reactive, defensive, hurt version, isn't the person you want to be. So you pause. You breathe. You let the moment pass. And on the other side of that pause, there's space. Space to think. Space to choose. Space to ask yourself, does this matter? Will this matter tomorrow? Will engaging with this person or this situation bring me closer to who I want to be or further away? And most of the time, the answer is farther, so you let it go. Not because it didn't hurt, but because healing matters more than winning. And here's what's wild. The moment you stop needing to respond to everything, the moment you stop needing to be understood by everyone, People start treating you differently. They might not even realize they're doing it. But they are, because silence signals something. It signals that you're not easily shaken, that you're not desperate for validation, that you know your worth and you don't need their confirmation, and people respect that. Even those who try to provoke you, especially those who try to provoke you. Because deep down, people recognize strength and silence, real silence, the kind that comes from confidence and not fear. That's one of the strongest things you can embody. That first time you choose it, it feels risky. It feels like maybe you're letting them win. Like maybe your silence will be taken as agreement or weakness or indifference. But it won't. Because people know the difference between someone who's silent because they're scared and someone who's silent because they've outgrown the argument. You can feel it. And so can they. The energy is different. The posture is different. The calm is different. And once you realize that, once you see that silence can be louder than any comeback, you start choosing it more often. Not out of fear, out of wisdom, out of the understanding that your life is too important to spend it reacting to every little thing that doesn't matter. But let's be clear, this isn't a one-time decision. Choosing silence isn't something you do once and then it's done. It's a discipline. It's a daily practice. It's a commitment you make to yourself every single time your emotions start to rise and your ego tells you to strike back. And some days you'll win. You'll stay calm. You'll stay grounded. You'll choose your peace. And other days you'll lose. You'll snap. You'll say what you wish you hadn't. You'll react. And that's okay. Because emotional control isn't about being perfect. It's about getting better. It's about reducing the time between trigger and response. It's about building the kind of mental fitness that lets you hold your ground even when everything inside you wants to explode. Think of it like physical fitness. You don't go to the gym once and expect to be strong forever. You have to keep showing up. You have to keep lifting. You have to keep pushing past the discomfort. Emotional discipline is the same. Every time you're triggered, that's a rep. Every time you choose restraint over reaction, that's a set. And over time, those reps add up. Your capacity grows. What used to send you spiraling now barely registers. What used to take you days to get over now takes you hours. And eventually, minutes, because you've trained yourself. You've built the muscle. And now, staying calm isn't something you have to force. It's something you've become. And that's the key word, become. You don't just do silence, you become it. It's not a mask you put on, it's a transformation that happens from within. You stop needing to prove yourself because you've proven it to the only person who matters. You stop needing to correct every wrong because you realize that being right doesn't always mean you win. Sometimes being right just means you're stuck in an argument with someone who will never see it. And that's exhausting. That's draining. That's a waste of the one life you have. So you start asking different questions. Instead, how do I make them understand? You ask, why do I need them to understand? Instead, how do I defend myself? You ask, do I even need to? Instead, how do I win this? You ask, is it worth playing? And in most cases, it's not. Most of the time, the best move is no move. The best response is no response. The best defense is no defense. Because you're not on trial. You're not required to explain yourself to every person who questions you. You're not required to show up for every argument you're invited to. And the sooner you realize that, the sooner you get your life back. Emotional control isn't about suppressing your feelings. It's about managing them. It's about feeling the anger without becoming it. It's about noticing the hurt without letting it dictate your next move. It's about sitting with the discomfort and not immediately trying to make it go away by lashing out. Because here's the truth, most of the time, when we respond, we're not trying to hurt the other person. We're trying to stop our own pain. We're trying to release the pressure. We're trying to feel like we did something. But pain doesn't leave just because you passed it on. It stays. And now you've added guilt, regret, and more conflict to the mix. So what did you gain? Nothing. What did you lose? Everything. Your peace, your dignity, your power. Discipline is about keeping it all. It's about protecting your emotional state the same way you protect anything else you value. You wouldn't let a stranger walk into your house and take whatever they wanted. So why do you let them walk into your mind and do the same thing? Your thoughts are yours. Your emotions are yours. Your energy is yours. And when you start treating them like they're sacred, when you start guarding them the way they deserve to be guarded, everything changes. Because now you're not reacting from a place of defense. You're responding from a place of strength. And that makes all the difference. Now, I'm not going to lie to you and say that choosing silence is always comfortable. It's not. In fact, there are times when it feels downright lonely. Because silence, real silence, the kind that comes from detachment and self-respect, often means walking away from people you used to be close to. It means not engaging with family members who bait you. It means not defending yourself to friends who've already made up their mind about you. It means sitting at a table full of people and choosing not to participate in the drama, the gossip, the negativity. And when you do that, people notice, and they don't always like it. Some will call you cold. Some will say you've changed. Some will accuse you of thinking you're better than them, and that's going to hurt. Because you're not trying to be cold, you're trying to be healthy. You're not trying to be distant, you're trying to be intentional. You're not trying to act superior, you're just trying to protect your peace. But people don't always see it that way, especially people who are used to getting a reaction out of you. When you stop giving them that, they take it personally. They feel rejected. And instead of looking inward and asking why they needed your reaction in the first place, they blame you. They make you the problem. And suddenly, you're the bad guy for refusing to play a game you never wanted to play. That's the cost. That's the resistance. And it's real. There will be times when you question, when you wonder if maybe you're being too harsh, too withdrawn, too quiet. When you wonder if maybe you should just go back to how things were, back to reacting, back to engaging, back to keeping the peace, even if it means sacrificing your own. And in those moments, you have to remember why you started this in the first place. You started because you were tired. You started because you were drained. You started because you realized that the version of you that said yes to everything, that explained everything, that fought every battle, that version was disappearing. And you didn't want to lose yourself trying to keep people who didn't even see you. Silence is lonely sometimes, but you know what's lonelier? Being surrounded by people and still feeling invisible. Talking until your voice is hoarse and still not being heard. Showing up for people who never show up for you. That's loneliness. Real loneliness. The kind that eats you alive because you're doing everything right and it's still not enough. At least when you choose silence, when you choose solitude, when you choose to step back, you're choosing it. You're not waiting for someone else to validate your choice. You're making it. And that's power. That's freedom, even if it doesn't always feel right at the moment. And here's the thing. The people who truly matter won't take your silence as rejection. They'll take it as growth. They'll see that you're setting boundaries, that you're protecting your energy, that you're becoming more selective about where you invest your time and your heart. And they'll respect it. It might even inspire them, because deep down, everyone wants that kind of peace. Everyone wants to be the kind of person who doesn't get rattled by every little thing, who doesn't need constant validation, who doesn't fall apart when someone misunderstands them. But most people don't know how to get there. They're stuck in the cycle of reaction, explanation, exhaustion. And when they see you breaking that cycle, when they see you walking away from things that used to consume you, they recognize it. They might not say it, but they see it. And whether they admit it or not, they respect it. So silence can feel lonely. Yes, it can feel like you're isolating yourself. But what you're really doing is creating space. Space for the right people, space for the right energy. Space for the version of yourself that isn't constantly defending, explaining, or performing. And that space? That's where peace lives. That's where clarity lives. That's where you finally breathe, and then something interesting starts to happen. The world around you begins to shift, not all at once, not dramatically, but slowly, subtly, you start to notice differences. People who used to test you stop testing you. Conversations that used to escalate don't escalate anymore. Situations that used to pull you in don't pull you in the same way, and it's not because the world changed. It's because you did. You stopped being an easy target. You stopped being reactive. You stopped participating in dynamics that drained you. And when you stop participating, the dynamic dies. It has to. Because it takes two people to keep dysfunction alive. And you're not one of them. At work, you'll notice it first. The colleague who used to undermine you in meetings suddenly stops. Not because they had a change of heart, but because they realise you're not going to bite back. You're not going to give them the drama they were looking for, so they move on. They find someone else to poke, someone who will react, someone who will make it interesting. And you? You just keep doing your work, quietly, consistently, without the need to announce every win or defend every decision. And over time, the people who matter start to see it. They start to see you are solid, that you don't need the spotlight, that you're not here to play games. You're here to build. And that kind of energy gets noticed. It gets respected. It gets rewarded. In relationships, it's the same. The people who used to drain you with their chaos, their need for constant reassurance, their inability to take responsibility, they start to fade. Not because you cut them off, but because you stopped feeding the pattern. You stopped overextending yourself. You stopped making their problems your emergency. And without your participation, the relationship either transforms or it ends. And honestly, both outcomes are wins. Because if the relationship transforms, it means it was real. It means there was something worth saving, and your boundaries helped save it. But if it ends, that means it was only surviving because you were doing all the work, and you don't need such relationships. No one does. You'll also notice a shift in how people approach you. They become more careful, more respectful. Not out of fear, but out of recognition. They recognise that you're not someone who can be manipulated. You're not someone who will absorb their negativity and carry it for them. You're not someone who will drop everything to fix their mess. And instead of losing respect, you gain it. Because people, even difficult people, value boundaries. They might test them. They might push against them. But deep down, they respect people who have them. Because it means you respect yourself. And self-respect is magnetic. It draws in the right people and repels the wrong ones. And that's exactly what you want. Even in small, everyday interactions, things change. The person who used to talk over you stops. The friend who used to make passive-aggressive comments either stops or reveals their true colours. The family member who used to guilt-trip you realises it doesn't work anymore. And you don't have to declare any of this. You don't have to make declarations or have big confrontational conversations. You just have to be consistent. You have to keep choosing your peace. Keep protecting your energy. Keep refusing to engage with anything that doesn't serve you. And people adjust. They either rise to meet you where you are, or they fall away. And either way, you're better off. Because here's what most people don't realise. The energy you put out is the energy you get back. When you're reactive, you attract reactive people. When you're dramatic, you attract drama. When you're defensive, you attract people who attack. But when you're calm, when you're grounded, when you're unshakable, you attract people who value that. You attract peace. You attract respect. You attract relationships that don't require constant maintenance, constant explanation, constant proof. You attract ease. And after years of struggle, ease feels like a miracle. But it's not a miracle. It's a result. It's what happens when you finally stop fighting battles that were never yours to begin with. One of the most powerful shifts that happens when you embrace silence is this. You stop being a participant and you become an observer. And that might sound passive, like you're just sitting on the sidelines watching life happen. But it's the opposite. Being an observer doesn't mean you're disconnected. It means you're present. It means you're paying attention. It means you're seeing things clearly instead of just reacting to them. And when you see things clearly, you make better decisions. You choose better battles. You invest in better people. You build a better life. Think about it. How many times have you reacted to something only to realize later that you misread the situation? How many times have you said something in the heat of the moment that you regretted an hour later? How many times have you let your emotions drive the car, and by the time you took the wheel back, you were way off course? That's what happens when you live in reaction mode. You don't have perspective. You don't have distance. You're too close to the fire to see what's actually burning. But when you step back, when you create space between the trigger and the response, suddenly you see things you couldn't see before. You see patterns. You see motives. You see the bigger picture. And that's when you stop repeating the same mistakes. Becoming an observer means you stop taking everything personally. Someone's rude to you? You observe it. You don't absorb it. You don't make it mean something about you. You just see it for what it is. Someone having a bad day, someone projecting their pain, someone operating from their own wounds, and instead of matching their energy, you just let it pass. You let them have their moment. You let them be wrong about you. And you move on, because their perception does not define you. Your sense of self defines you, and someone who doesn't even know, you can't shake that. This is where real freedom lives, in the ability to witness life without constantly defending yourself against it. Let people be who they are without needing them to be who you want them to be. To see situations for what they are instead of what you wish they were. And when you operate from that place, you stop wasting time. You stop wasting energy. You stop trying to force things that don't fit. You just observe, assess, and act accordingly. And that's not cold. That's wise. That's mature. That's what it looks like to actually be in control of your life instead of letting your emotions control you. Here's a question for you. Think about it honestly. How many times did reacting make it better? How many times did sending that message, having that argument, proving that point? How many times did it actually improve the situation? I'm willing to bet the number is low, maybe even zero. Because most of the time, reaction doesn't solve anything. It just creates more noise, more tension, more distance. But observation gives you clarity. It gives you the ability to respond instead of react. And the response is intentional. It's measured. It's rooted in who you want to be, not who someone else is trying to make you. And that's the difference between living reactively and living deliberately. When you become the observer, you also become more patient. You stop needing immediate resolution. You stop needing instant closure. You stop needing people to apologize right now, explain themselves right now, change right now. You realize some things take time. Some people need space. Some situations must unfold before the lesson becomes clear. And instead of rushing it, instead of forcing it, you just watch. You trust. You give it room to breathe. And more often than not, things work themselves out without your interference. Problems solve themselves. People reveal themselves. Truth surfaces. And you didn't have to do anything except stay out of the way. That's the power of observation. It's not passive. It's patient. It's not indifferent. It's intentional. And it's one of the most underrated skills you can develop. Because the world rewards action. It rewards hustle. It rewards noise. But real power comes from knowing when to move and when to be still. When to speak and when to remain silent. When to engage and when to leave. And you can't know any of that if you're always reacting. You can only know it if you're observing, if you're present, if you're awake. And that's what silence does. It wakes you up. It brings you back to yourself. And from that place, you can finally see the path forward. So let's talk about what it looks like when you've mastered this. When silence isn't something you force. When stillness isn't something you have to remind yourself to choose. When it's just who you are. That's the goal. Not perfection. Not some cold, emotionless version of yourself. But a version of you that's rooted. That's grounded. That doesn't get shaken by every storm because you've learned how to be calm in the center of it. And that version of you, that's freedom. That's peace. That's power. Mastery of stillness doesn't mean you never feel anger. It doesn't mean you never feel hurt or frustration or disappointment. It means you feel all of those things and you don't let them run your life. You acknowledge them. You sit with them. You let them move through you, but you don't act on them. You don't make decisions from them. You don't burn bridges or say things you can't take back or sabotage your own peace just because you're feeling something intense in the moment. You've trained yourself to pause, to breathe, to wait until the wave passes. And then, from a place of clarity, you decide what to do. Or you decide to do nothing. And both are valid. Both are powerful. Because both come from choice, not compulsion. This is emotional maturity. This is what it looks like to be an adult in the truest sense. Not someone who has it all figured out, but someone who knows how to manage themselves. Someone who doesn't need external validation to feel whole. Someone who doesn't need everyone to like them, understand them, or agree with them. Someone who's comfortable in their own skin, in their own decisions, in their own silence. And that comfort, that's rare. Most people spend their whole lives looking for it in others. In relationships. In achievements. In approval. But it doesn't live there. It lives in you. In your ability to be okay even when things aren't okay. In your ability to stay steady even when everything around you is chaos. And here's the beautiful part. When you reach that place, when you've mastered the art of stillness, you become a source of calm for other people too. Not because you're preaching at them, not because you're telling them what to do, but because your energy speaks for itself. People feel it. They feel the difference between someone who's pretending to be okay and someone who actually is. They feel the difference between someone who's faking confidence and someone who's genuinely at peace. And they're drawn to it, because deep down, everyone's looking for that. Everyone wants to know how to stop being so rattled by life. And when they see someone who's figured it out, even if they don't say it, they pay attention. They watch. They learn. You become a model without even trying. You become proof that it's possible to live differently. Do not take everything personally. Do not react to everything that provokes you. Do not need everyone's approval or understanding. And that's powerful. Not just for you, but for everyone around you, because change is contagious. Peace is contagious. Stillness is contagious. And when you embody it, you give others permission to do the same. You show them that it's okay to leave, that it's okay to stay quiet, that it's okay to protect your peace even if other people don't understand why. And that permission, that's life-changing. Silence isn't the absence of power, it is power. It's the power to choose, the power to protect, the power to preserve yourself in a world that's constantly asking you to give pieces of yourself away. It's the power to say no without explaining, to walk away without apologizing, to be misunderstood without needing to correct the record. It's the power to trust that the right people will see you, the right opportunities will find you, and the right life will unfold, not because you fought for it, but because you made space for it. And space only comes when you stop filling every moment with noise, every silence with words, every gap with reaction. Mastery of stillness is the ultimate form of self-respect. It's saying, I matter. My energy matters. My peace matters. And I'm not going to throw any of that away on things that don't deserve it. It's the decision to live intentionally, to move with purpose, speak when it matters and remain silent when it doesn't. And over time, that intentionality becomes your identity. You're no longer the person who explodes. You're the person who pauses. You're no longer the person who needs the last word. You're the person who knows when to let it go. You're no longer the person who's controlled by their emotions. You're the person who's learned to work with them, to honour them, to feel them fully, and then to choose what happens next. And that's when silence finally spoke louder than anything.